Good afternoon once again, and welcome to my live Facebook video broadcast. This is video two or video number two of a conversation which I joined and which uh, I have opted to express my position, in the form of a video. And this is the video that I am uh, recording. So this recording is in response or it's my contribution, in answering a particular question that was posed on the platform, which I am, a member of. So I am part of that platform. So I thought it wise to also respond to, the question in the form of, an answer. And so yesterday I made one video. Today I'm making another video, and I'm going to share it brethren on that platform so that whoever is interested has received the opportunity to watch the video. So I'm actually particular about an answer from one of the brethren, or actually he's a man, so one of the brother on the page, because his answer was to also answer my position. You understand? The question was posed, I expressed view, and he opted to also kind of like correct my submission. So that is what I am also making these videos to answer him. Okay, so to demonstrate to him that the answer that I provided is was accurate and there's nothing wrong with that. So this is what I'm going to do. And the conversation was about or was on Matthew chapter 20, Matthew chapter 16, verse 28, particularly. And so he tried to answer it by comparing his answer with Matthew chapter 17. Okay, just the next chapter. So, he believed that the chapter 16 was actually fulfilled in chapter 17. So that is what he believed. That Matthew chapter 16 concern, relating to the coming of the Lord in his kingdom actually was actually fulfilled in or on the mountain of transfiguration. The vision of the parousia of the Lord actually answers the time, answers Matthew chapter 16, verse uh, 28. So that is what we're going to look at. But this is what Brother Chester said. He is Brother Chester, I believe that's the name. But though on the page he has print solution. I think he runs this, printing press and so on and so forth. A man must work in order to survive. So he also works to survive. Apart from being dedicated to the kingdom work, he also he does one or two private works in order to get make the ends meet. Anyway, that is good. That is what we all do anyway. So Brother Chester, that is just by the way. Anyway, so this is that yesterday I made one video to affirm my position and to also respond to his answer, his opinion over my answer. So today I'm going to continue. But this is what uh, Brother Chester said. It was very, very, very important. It's very, very important, and I agree with him into to accept his connection with Matthew chapter 17 being fulfillment of Matthew chapter 16. That is where we tend to depart. That is where we tend to uh, disagree. I believe so. So this is what he said. He said that the promise, as referring to his coming to establish his kingdom on earth, you know, the context indicates that Jesus was referring to the transfiguration, because in uh, Matthew chapter 16, we read the time of the judgment and the time of the Lord, coming in his kingdom. And that was to occur before those who stood have all died. Okay, so it means that the time when the Lord returns into his kingdom will occur in the first century. At least it will occur before the first century, people who stood in his audience, you know, were alive. Okay, so that means that if those people are not alive today, what that means is that the coming of the Lord in his kingdom has come. However, Brother Chester, and I think he's not the first one, earlier, some time ago, I had a similar conversation with a certain brother, and he also made similar, assertion. He also he held that that position. I believe perhaps they might have been taught by one college, tutor. Anyway, so this is what it means. So it says that Matthew chapter 16 verse 28 is the uh, where it is taught that, or where we are told that the Lord will come in His kingdom before those who are standing there have all died. So he believed that that actually has to do with the transfiguration. So in other words, Matthew chapter 16 verse 28 was fulfilled, you know, just 6 days after Jesus has spoken uh, Matthew chapter 16. Okay, so he believed that the transfiguration is actually what Jesus Christ meant when he said he will come in his kingdom before those who were standing there have all died. And so yesterday, I think I have responded to this text because uh, you can, where that I also agree with him. However, I do agree with him that it was fulfilled on the mountain of transfiguration. But Matthew chapter 17 depicts the vision of the second coming of Christ. It depicts the vision, the nature of the coming of the Lord. Okay, what they call the second coming of Christ. So what occurred there is how he's going to come in his second coming. But that does not fulfill his coming in this kingdom. Okay. Now, what happened was that in on the mountain of transfiguration, Jesus Christ transfigured, that he's transitioned from his earthly uh, stature or his earthly, uh, his earthly body into a spiritual body. That body is the exact. That is how the Lord looks like in reality in heaven. Prior to his incarnation birth through Mary, this is how he looked like. He looked like a light. So in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 15-16, we are told that he lives in that unapproachable light. You see, no one can approach him. He lives in that unapproachable. He's not man in the flesh. He's not man in the flesh and blood. Remember what he told, I think, is it Nathaniel, John chapter 15, right? It says that, why do you still, inquire to know the Lord or to see the Lord? As you have seen me, you have seen the Lord. See, in him dwell the fullness of God's head. Okay, he was part of the God's head. See, but they were judging him based on his physique, the physical, body, as he was in that physical body. That is how they were judging him. But they within him was the fullness of God. He was a Godhead. You understand? So prior to coming to this world, he was in that light. In John chapter 9, it says that I am the light of the world. So he is the light. He lives in that realm of what? Unapproachable light. In First John chapter 1, verse 7, it says that uh, when we live in light, right? I hope that is the text. It says that when we, anyway, let me read that because it's very, very important and it points to the nature of the Lord prior to his incarnation birth. So in First John chapter 3, it says that, anyway, this thing has to take a little time to get loaded. Anyway, so uh, First John chapter 1, this thing sometimes it wastes time. Okay, books. All right, so we have First John chapter 1. First John chapter 1, verse 7. Okay, so it says that, but if we walk in the light, as he is in the light, so Jesus Christ is in the light. Okay, so the vision that appeared to the three apostles, John, Peter, and James, that vision, is how the Lord is in reality. So when he's coming a second time, he's not going to come as a man in the flesh. He's going to come as he is. He's going to present himself to us as God in the spirit, but not as man in the flesh. Because there he transfigured. He has left this body substance into a new spiritual reality. How he looks like, his being prior to coming to this world. And so his second coming will be the time he is going to come in that, in that spiritual body, into where, into a spiritual kingdom, because the kingdom within which he is going to sit on his throne is that kingdom which does not come with what? Observation. You cannot see the kingdom. Okay, so you cannot expect a physical body person to come into a spiritual kingdom, a kingdom that does not come with observation. So remember what he told the apostles, those who were with him, who saw the vision, that do not tell anyone about this, because no one knows how, the way and the manner in which he's going to come. But he has already shown them, giving them the vision, shown them the vision of his parousia, because he's going to come to sit in a spiritual kingdom. He's not going to come to sit in a kingdom or tabernacles made with hands. So remember what Peter said on the day, that let us build three tabernacles, thinking that Jesus Christ lives in houses made with what? Made with hands. In Isaiah chapter 66, verse 1 following, and Acts chapter 7, verse 47, for they said that our Lord does not live in buildings made with what? Made with hands. Which is why the Holy Spirit was given to build him a house, so that when that house is completed, then he will come with a myriad of his saints to sit in the kingdom to consummate the marriage. So that is how we have to understand it. So it gives the vision, but it does not mean that the coming of the Lord in his kingdom occurred 6 days after Matthew chapter 16. That one, depicts the vision. Okay, the vision, how the Lord is going to come to sit in his kingdom in Matthew chapter 16. You understand? So that is how we have to, comprehend what occurred between these two. Now, there's another aspect that I will want to look at, because yesterday I spoke at length about this, so I'm not going to go there again. Today I'm going to look at another one. I'm going to look at a new one. And it also pertains to what Brother Chester said, in answering, or when he responded to my answer. You understand? I think, he responded to my answer. All right. So that is what I'm going to look at. Now, he went further. As I said, he is very, very knowledgeable brother in the Lord, in terms of knowledge of the scripture. Scriptures is, is well acquainted with the scriptures. So he went further to define, or to look at other definitions of the kingdom from Greek perspective. You understand? So this is what he said. He said that the Greek word translated kingdom can also be translated as royal splendor. Royal splendor. Royal splendor. So the kingdom is also called, or also depicts or implies royal splendor. Okay, royal splendor. That is another name. So the kingdom, as we know, the reign and authority of Christ. You see, that is also the kingdom. The kingdom also means what? Reign and authority of what? Of Christ. Okay, so it means that that reign, when the Lord begins to reign in his kingdom, will be the time when he will be crowned or coronated as Lord of Lords and Kings of Kings. Okay, that will be the time when he comes in his kingdom. Okay, that is what Matthew chapter 16, verse 28, said. Okay, he is going to come in his kingdom. That will be the time when he will be given that crown, when he will be crowned as King of what? Kings. And that is going to occur before the first century people have all died. That text in Matthew chapter 16, verse 20 is the second coming of Christ, not the vision of Matthew chapter 17. We are talking about the second coming of Christ. And you see, let me give you this. All the first century writers knew that the coming of the Lord, the parousia of the Lord, or what they call the second coming of Christ, was going to occur in their time. It was near in the first century. It was near in the first century. You read that in Matthew chapter 26, verse 64. The coming of the Lord in the clouds of heaven is going to occur in their time. Revelation chapter 1, verse 7, the coming of the Lord in the clouds. All I will see him, including those who pierce him. John chapter 19, verse 34, following. It's going to tell you that one of the soldiers pierced him. So those who pierced him will live to see him come. So it means that the coming of the Lord will occur at least before all of them have died. And these two, Matthew chapter 26, verse 64, Revelation chapter 1, verse 7, have their trace root from the prophet. Zechariah chapter 12, verse 10 to 14. So, and we can also talk about James chapter 5, verse 8 and verse 9, Philippians chapter 4, verse 5 and 6. You see, when you read them, it's going to tell you that the coming of the Lord will occur in the first century, at least before they have died, because that will be the time of their salvation, the salvation of Israel. You see, I wouldn't want to go there, but I think I have made a lot of videos, explaining, some of these things. So I think if you go to my YouTube page, you're going to come out with some of these videos. All right, but this is what I want to look at. It says that can also, according to Brother Chester, the Greek word translated kingdom can also be translated as royal splendor, meaning that the three disciples standing there will see Christ as he, very good, the three kingdom. Now remember, he said that there are some standing here who shall not taste death till they see me come. And in Matthew chapter 10, verse 23, Jesus Christ told the apostles that when they persecute you in one city, run to another city. And I tell you that you will not have gone through the cities of Israel before I come. So that at least they know that the coming of the Lord will be in their lifetime. So it says that they will see him, meaning that the three disciples standing there will see Christ as he really. Now this is how he qualifies how they are going to see Christ really. Very good. So Christ in its real stature does not possess bones, flesh and bones. He is not a flesh, and bone and blood man. He is a light. He is a spirit. So they are going to see him a spirit, in a spiritual form. They are not going to see him in a physical form. This is what I am talking about. This is what the vision is all about. So he's shown them how he's going to come, not as man in the flesh, so that they are not going to see 5.5 height man riding on electral clouds and coming to this world. Of course, that coming will be the time of the kingdom, because it will be the time when he sits in the kingdom. You understand? So where was this kingdom on Mount on Mount Transfiguration, on that mountain of Transfiguration, where Jesus Christ transitioned into his spiritual state? There was no kingdom on the day. However, Matthew chapter 16, 20 talks about the Lord coming in his kingdom, but there was no kingdom. Even at that time, the kingdom has not even come. Let our Father who art in heaven, let thy kingdom come. But at that time, the kingdom has not even come. So how did Christ sit in that kingdom which has not yet come? You understand? So Matthew chapter 17 cannot fulfill Matthew chapter 16. In terms of the parousia and the kingdom. Okay, so that is how it is now. The king now, it says that royal splendor, meaning that the three disciples standing there will see Christ as he really is. That is a spiritual man. John chapter 14. John chapter 4. The king of heaven, which occurred in the transfiguration. Here is where I disagree with you, because that transfiguration did not, posit Christ as king. Okay, but it is rather his royal coming to marry the church, which coronated him as King of Kings and Lord of what? Lord of Lords. And see, we are talking about the royal coming of the Lord, the kingdom, as he called it, the royal splendor. You see, the coming of the Christ will be like a royal, it's going to be a royal coming. He's going to display his royal splendor because he's going to marry the church. You understand? And when did the prophet say the marriage will come? The marriage of the Lamb will come. It will be after Jerusalem has been destroyed. So the time of the destruction of Jerusalem is the time of coming of the Lord to consummate the marriage to marry the church. Isaiah chapter 25, verse 6 to 7, right? All have the wedding occurring in connection with the fall of what? Jerusalem. So it means that Matthew chapter 16, verse 28 is the fall of Jerusalem hot text, the coming of the Lord, a royal coming of the Lord to consummate the marriage. Okay, because at that time the saints are also going to put on that robe of what? Royalty. They are going to put on robe of what? Royalty. They have to appear, at the function, at the wedding, putting on this what? Heavily clothing or heavily woven what? Garment. Because when the Lord comes, he will expect to see those present wearing what? This royal robe. So at some point in time, those who were in Revelation chapter 6, verse 9 to 12, okay, those who were persecuted, who were killed, okay, who were who were below the altar of God, who were in paradise, they cried out to God, asking him when he is going to avenge for their blood and to vindicate them. Okay, and the Lord told them that was at the opening of the fifth seal. Hello? Uh-huh. Oh, may a video movie. Aye. Okay, so those people, they were assured that they should continue in the faith in the midst of the tribulation, because tribulation was going to come upon them in the course of the Great Commission. See, they are going to be persecuted, others are going to be imprisoned, others are going to be killed, and that will be the time of apostasy, because many of them will not be able to withstand the tribulation that is going to come upon the church. But many of them were also admonished to contain the tribulation till the end, because the Lord is going to grant them that crown of righteousness at the end. The Lord is going to come at the end. Okay, and that end pertains to the end of Israel, not the end of the geographical material creation, but it is the end of what? End of national Israel. That is the end. The Lord is going to come at the end of the age of Moses. Matthew.